Most conservation stories that we have heard at some point talk about securing local livelihoods. But in some cases, local perception juxtaposes environmental conservation against livelihoods as sworn enemies. This can't be more true than in the case of places like Pachgani Tableland, where natural heritage meets modern day growing tourism. Hema Ramani of Bombay Environmental Action Group and Dr. Aparna Vatwe, an ecologist, tell us how a group of activists, researchers, scientists, locals, and legal experts came together and took efforts right from 2003 to 2020 and convinced the Indian judiciary to protect 80 acres of the Pasgani Plateau from horse carts.
Hi everyone. So today, when thinking about Panchgani tableland as a story, I remembered a very old paper. This is written in 1909 by Reverend Blatter, a senior botanist who did the first flora of Panchgani. He says, there is first of all the tableland, marked off by the entire absence of any tree or shrub. There is very little soil on the hard rock. The water flows off very readily or collects in shallow tanks. The whole is covered with grass into which there are woven the loveliest of tiny flowers. Most characteristic plants prefer a gregarious life. There are smaller and bigger patches of big yellow flowers, wide delicate eriocolons called hatpins, or again miniature little forests of purple Disophylla and whole carpets of blue bonnets that are the utricularias. Now, anyone, if he hears this description, they will immediately think of Kars Plateau. But no, this is description of Panchgani, a large plateau in the heart of the Panchgani city. Panchgani is very well known as a place of hill station where tourists go for summer holidays and they ride on the plateau, they have chana, they have bhel, puri, and generally have fun. So they are more aware of the landscape and the beautiful sunset, but nobody knows what is the real natural heritage of Panchgani. I think many of us as botanists only know about the natural heritage. We hardly ever see the tourists around. But in the recent years, even the botanists had started worrying about this because the plants had gotten less and less, and there were signs of degradation all over. So we always wondered, what is it that we have to do to preserve the natural heritage?
So what you spoke about Panchgani, Aparna, it's really very, very difficult to imagine, because when we got introduced to Panchgani, it was like supposed to be a barren 100-acre land where all sort of amusement was continuously happening. So, but then of course there were a few of them who were aware of this ecology, and that's why in 1998 we got the first order for protection of Panchgani tableland through a writ petition. Now, despite this, the whole Mela continued. This whole entertainment, amusement zone kept continuing. And you have to understand that Panchgani falls within the Mahabaleshwar Panchgani region, which was recognized for its ecology. And the government of Maharashtra way back in 1980 had declared uh, it to be a special area and had a special regional plan even in the 1980s. And that has been followed by declaring that entire region as an eco-sensitive zone in 2001. In 2002, there was a heritage list that was declared by the government of Maharashtra, where they declared Panchgani tableland to be a natural heritage site. So this is the importance not only of this entire region, but even of Panchgani, because Panchgani in 2005 has also been declared as a conservation zone. On one end, we realize that the potential of Panchgani tableland for its ecology, but sadly, when it came to the ground, the implementation was very bad. So since 1998, we saw that the entire Mela scene continued. And in 2002, the second writ petition was filed for protection of Panchgani tableland. Now, when that particular writ petition was filed, a committee was constituted by the High Court. That committee drew a plan. What they did is that the 100 acres of Panchgani tableland, they kind of bifurcated it into two, where one was the 20-acre and the other one was the 80-acre. So the 80 acre was declared to be the main tableland, which was supposed to be only for walkers. But the 20 acre, which was pretty much flat in its topography, was declared to be having for all other amusement purposes like parking, horse carts, horse riding, stalls. So there were certain things, because they had to kind of have a balance between the livelihood as well as ecology. So it could really not have been something that we could preserve Panchgani only for its ecology, because over a period of time tourism had kind of taken control over it. So after this plan was passed in 2006, again we found that despite this entire plan being put in place, there was no implementation, because the municipal council never had the will to implement this plan, because the Tableland Association, who were kind of in charge of this entire amusement scene, were all mostly the political parties or the municipal councillors. So having said that, again in 2008, we had to file a contempt petition in the court because the orders were not being implemented. But when we filed this contempt, we got to thinking, what is to be done? Because, just going to the court again and again, what was the reason why this whole thing was not getting implemented? And one of the reasons I went back to the main petition is, at that point of time, I discovered your paper, of its ecological value. But Aparna, really, what paper was that? Yaar? I couldn't understand head or tail of that paper. What was written in that paper? So you remember my frantic call to you introducing myself from BEAG. And would you like to say that story of what transpired?
When Hema called me, she was very polite about it, but she told me very clearly that she could not figure out what was written in the paper, maybe because it was in such a scientific language that no normal person would understand. And, I was very shocked because I had written very sincerely. I'd been studying Panchgani Tableland from almost 2001 onwards. I had taken notes from the historical papers, and I had written that there are 44 endemics and there are almost 6 species which have been named after Panchgani, like one orchid, one euphorbia. They have been named after Panchgani. So this was all very important information. No? So from my point of view, I was very upset that she said, okay, this doesn't make sense. Then after thinking a bit, I realized that it probably makes sense only to the tiny community of researchers who have been studying similar areas. So Hema was very patient, and she said, okay, you have to learn to tell this in a manner that people will understand, people outside your community will understand, because ultimately they are the ones who are going to help in conservation. So you have to think of how you will respond to a person who will ask, why should we save tableland? Think about a judge who will try and understand how is it that we should go about for conservation. So I realized at that point of time, and it changed my life, that to make conservation happen on ground, we need to be, as scientists, we need to be able to talk in a language which is very simple, but yet accurate. And that was a big learning for me. And then we started thinking about how we can proceed in future.
So when Aparna and we were just thinking on, how to approach the court, how to kind of convince our solicitors, because you have to understand with litigation, it's a long haul. You have to kind of convince your solicitors. Then they, in turn, they convince the council, and then the council argues your matter in court. So it's like kind of a long haul that happens. So when we were all discussing how we'll put the paper and how we'll kind of convince the court, it was a very sad thing that happened in 2012, that an accident took place. A young girl fell, the cart just rolled down the cliff of Panchgani Tableland, and the cart, of course, disappeared. But it took along with it the girl and the horse. They both died, and that was so sad. But somehow that was a turning point for this whole issue. That was the first time that the municipal council really got up. They were up in their arms and they decided enough is enough, and people cannot keep doing all this. And then they kind of strictly enforced the High Court order. So what happened was the main tableland was completely closed for all activities, and all activities started happening in the 20 acre. But when the activities were happening in the 20 acre, it was at that time that the horse cart owners and the riders realized that, oh my God, now nothing is going to move. Now we know for a fact that, this accident is such a deterrent. Now we'll not really be able to do anything beyond this. So that's when they came back to us saying that, oh, let's, kind of come onto a table, let's start talking. But we told them that since the matter is sub judice, we really will not be able to discuss anything. But what we did is we did approach the court and we said that, look, we have got an ecologist who has a specialty in studying this niche area of tableland. And we would like to involve this ecologist, and whatever is their report, whatever is her study or a report, we will kind of decide, and we can take the matter ahead. Because every time what was being presented in the court is that dry, barren photographs of Panchgani and nothing beyond that. They kept saying that there is so much of dust storm that's happening. It's just a vast table. It's Bhimacha Tawa, and all sort of things went on and on. So then we got an order from the court saying that, you all please go to the tableland, all the stakeholders, BEAG as the petitioner, the respondents who were the Tableland Association, along with Aparna, the municipal council. So we all had a field visit in the hot summer season of May. On one hot blazing day, we were all on tableland standing there to do a survey to see if horses and horse cars would be damaging to the ecology of the tableland. And at that point of time, the entire Tableland Association were like on Aparna, and they were saying, Amala, please give us 15 feet wide road. Please give us 16 feet wide road right here. We want one track to go. We want one track to come. Then we need to go and see Bhimacha Paul. Then we want to go and see that. That is the area where the film shooting has happened. So when all these people had so many demands, and Aparna was all lost. So she just turned and she said, Hema, I am a scientist. I am a researcher. What are you putting me in? This is not my forte. Aparna, you have to explain your part of the story.
Yeah, I very distinctly remember, so this was like this May, we were standing and there was a dust storm around, and people were just yelling for getting a piece of tableland for their own. And they were the stakeholders, and probably it was the first kind of such experience for me, because I had only gone to the Panchgani tableland in quiet monsoon times where there are hardly any tourists. And here it was like a matter of life and death of not only the tableland, but all the species on it, plants, animals. And I was completely lost. And I told Hema, it's a very serious matter. We are standing on a natural heritage which has been protected by botanists, which has been talked about by zoologists, geologists for hundreds of years throughout the world. And you're asking me to take a decision about it in 2 minutes. That's impossible. I mean, I can never do that. So we need to have a proper survey done, because one thing that we had realized by that time is that when Panchgani was declared as a natural heritage site, there was very little description of vegetation in that specific thing. So although everybody knew that it's important, there was not a legally created plan or discussion or write-up about that till then. So I said, let us just do it all together. We need to look at it not only from the past, not only the history of it, but also what is the present. And how do we go ahead from here? So we have to look at what kind of planning we need for future, because this is heritage, which is very, very precious. So give us some time, get us some time. And Hema really did that. Hema got us time from the court. And Hema, why don't you explain how you did that miracle?
No, it was not actually a miracle, but it's like we convinced the court saying that, studies and all cannot happen over just a day. And we explained to the court that why there's a problem, and why the scientists, experts feel that they need to do an entire study for 3 seasons. So starting with the monsoon, because we were already in May, and as per the HCMC plan, all activities had to stop from June to September. So technically there was not going to be any activity happening, and that was the flowering season as well. So when we got that window, so the accident happened in April, we got this opportunity in May, and June as it is, it was going to be closed for all activities. Even on the 20 acre, there's going to be no much of movement except for stalls. So having said that, We got that window for you, Aparna. So that the window was because of the HCMC plan that was already existing. And that's how you started your survey. So you need to tell us how you did your survey.
Okay, so we decided to do a very thorough survey and do mapping also. So we had a team. I have some pictures also of them. Yatish, Apeksha, Anupriya, Sania. This was all the very young, enthusiastic research team. And we were visiting Panchgani throughout the monsoon every alternate week. And the real time of seeing the wildflowers was September. We had guidance from the earlier papers. So we had already mapped onto the tableland map what had been told by the earlier botanists. So where were the isoetes? Where was the Habenaria panchganensis? Where was the Euphorbia panchganensis? So all those areas reported in the papers and told by the senior botanists all were first mapped. And those areas were the sensitive areas, which were, there was no compromise about protecting them. Then we started the what kind of disturbances exist on it. So we did a little ecological concern matrix. We looked at small disturbances, which have probably a small impact and could be reversed by proper planning. And there were other disturbances, which were really some things that could not be, tolerated at all by the vegetation. So small disturbances was tourists coming and walking, trampling on it. There were 80 horses at that point of time, and they were riding on the tableland. But when we looked at it, and also there was grazing by the local cattle, so all these were very small disturbances as such. Because if you just made them walk in a certain path and created, a route for them properly, then there was no problem of them entering into the sensitive zones or trampling on them. And that could have been achieved by simple awareness generation. So that was okay. And we said, okay, we should allow these to continue because they're also linked to the tourist experience and to the livelihoods of the local people there. However, the horse carts were completely different. And one, they were completely illegal. There was no license to operate. This Panchgani tableland is a public place. So any commercial activity in that place should have been, with some planning. But horse cart owners had just not ever thought about it, and they were riding anywhere. They needed a road which was cutting through the 80 acres. It was a zone of sensitive area, and it was just not allowed by the court at all in any case. If we had allowed them, then the tourist and the disturbance would have spread to the sensitive zones. So that was something that was really, unacceptable. And although there was a lot of opposition, we said that horse carts just cannot be tolerated because they create too much of disturbance, and recovery of the vegetation, recovery of the entire plateau will be hampered if we allow them. They were already causing fragmentation for more than 20 years. And if we had just let it go further, then it was like, death of the vegetation in any case. So that was to be avoided at all costs. So I think that's what we presented in the court.
So when this report came in from Aparna, again, it was pretty much technical. So we had to kind of break down the entire report to be, very lucid and easy reading so that it could be easy for our solicitors and our counsels to understand and present it before the court. And at that point of time, when Aparna had completely concluded in her findings that horses can be permitted on the main tableland and horse carts cannot be permitted on the main tableland because the recovery of ecology is not going to be happening at all. It is the most disturbing aspect of tourism that should be promoted. So having said this, when we sent the report, Aparna was given a chance to present her entire paper before the court. So now Aparna will have to tell that how was her experience as a scientist standing there in a courtroom and presenting her paper.
Hema, you dropped this bomb on me one fine day. Do you remember that I have to go to the court and present the report? So I was okay till, making a report. But court is something, a really strange place for me. And first, Hema was very careful. She one day said, okay, let's just go there and you wait and watch and see what's going on. So that was a good preparation. And she coached me, how the situation is like and all. So I had by that time seen court only in Hindi films. And I used to think that, it can't be like that in reality. But then I realized that in real life, court is really a very, very strange place. It's a lot like Hindi films. So it was full of people, and there was a crowd, and lawyers were shouting at each other. And there was this bailiff in a historical clothes who was standing there with this danda. So all this took a while for me to register and get used to it. So Hema got me acclimatized. And then I was asked to talk about what I feel as ecologist in front of all these people and in front of the judge. So, and Hema had told me very clearly that now you have to speak in Marathi. And I was very surprised because I'm not used to speaking about ecology in Marathi, or I wasn't at that point of time. So I was really, scared that how will I talk. And then when I started speaking in Marathi, it started registering. I could see that people's faces suddenly changed. They started responding. So everybody, including the lawyers, started responding to the things that I was saying. And then I was sort of, I was just launching into details of what the area is like and what are my views about it. And they were really patiently listening to me. So it went on, I think, for almost half an hour. And the best part of it was when I came out, the bailiff got out, came after me and said, Madam, in Marathi, huh? Madam, I could understand what you were saying and you were perfectly right in what you were saying. So I think that is the biggest compliment I have ever got in my life so far for the science. So some of the things that they asked me in court were very valid. Will this affect livelihood? So we said that no, because already we have accepted that the horses will run, although ecologically speaking, even that is a disturbance, but still we understand the livelihood issues. So they can go provided that they follow certain conditions, which is of walking on a certain designated path. And horse carts, there was nobody stopping them from running into the 20 acres, which was a zone which court had designated. So I said that, we are not going against anybody's livelihood, but ultimately we have to remember that this is a natural heritage. It's a public space which is declared conservation zone. So we have to respect that. And in this presentation, I also talked about CAS because at that time, CAS was already recognized as World Natural Heritage Site. And Forest Department with the local communities had started ecotourism, and they were making efforts in such a manner that it was done jointly. And it had already started getting benefits for the people, actual cash benefits. So I argued that, nature tourism just about 60, 70 kilometers from a Panchgani tableland is actually earning people livelihoods in 2-3 months. So we can always try that at Panchgani. And I see a lot of potential in that kind of nature tourism. And ultimately, we are here to protect the ecology. And that was my argument. But Hema, what happened later after that? Because it took a long time again, no?
Yeah, because you know how it is with the courts, you don't get a hearing date very soon. But in the meantime, what had happened was the Municipal Council and the Tableland Association, they were not very happy with your report. So what they did is they appointed one more expert from their side. And that particular expert did a single day survey on a barren tableland somewhere in the somewhere in the summer season. And he gave a report to the court saying that, yeah, I conducted a survey on this one day. And what I realized is that it's, horse carts cannot fly. It is damaging to the ecology. But considering livelihood, I think it should be permitted. So the court then, took both your reports. They took Aparna's report as well as the other ecologist report, and they said that the underlying thing in both this report is a common factor that horse carts are damaging to the ecology. So taking that and looking into a very detailed argument of Aparna, which was like, a complete documentation with pictures, with matrix, with a lot of explanation, with a proper conclusion, with a reading. They said that the horse carts, which are right now plying in the 20 acre, can continue plying in the 20 acre. It cannot be plying on the main tableland, and they allowed plying of horses only on a designated track on the main tableland. So this particular decision was somehow not acceptable to the Tableland Association, and they were very upset. They said that if horses can go, we don't see the reason why horse carts cannot go on it, and this report and everything is just not right. And they kept filing review petitions. They kept filing further petitions. So the court accepted and gave a judgment of accepting the horses being running on the 80 acre main tableland on a designated track in 2013. So from 2013 to 2017, there were multiple petitions that were filed by the Tableland Association challenging the order of the High Court. But the High Court dismissed all their petitions and they upheld. They said that we cannot go any more further into it. It has been dealt in a very detailed fashion and we have done our best. And this report is a kind of a very good balance between ecology and livelihood. So now they didn't have anything else left, no recourse left in the High Court. They filed a SLP in the Supreme Court in 2018. So when they filed this in the Supreme Court in 2018, again there was an incident of a death on Panchgani Tableland, where a guy fell off the horse and he died. So now once again what happened is the municipal council again got very strict with where the carts are going. They completely stopped the ban. They stopped and they put in a lot of regulations. Helmet compulsory. I don't know how far it's being really implemented. They started looking into aspects of safety. So all that was put. And so in 2020, this petition was again moved in the Supreme Court by the Tableland Association and they pressed for urgency. They said that March, that is 2020 March is going to be our peak season where, it's going to be our livelihood issue. So we want the court to hear it on a priority. So once again, this whole issue came up and once again, Aparna's report was again read in detail, analyzed in detail. And it was found that, that there was so much of a logical conclusion, so much of a reading, so much this. And the Supreme Court the Supreme Court was very clear and it upheld the High Court order of 2006 as well as 2030. And they said that whatever High Court has given a decision, it is right. Horse carts are either which ways being plying on the 20 acres. So there's actually no question of livelihood that is being affected. But if ecology and livelihood has to be there, I think the entire matter is settled. So we got the best judgment from the Supreme Court on February 12th, 2020, where it is now a settled matter that only horses can ply on Panchgani main tableland and horse carts will ply on the 20 acre. So now this is where it stands, but there is some more work to be done on this because Aparna is going to be still involved with designating of the route, demarcating conservation zones. And these are things that Aparna had started along with Dr. Ankur Patwardhan, who is the chairman of the HLMC. Aparna, can you throw some light about your work along with the HLMC chairman, Dr. Ankur Patwardhan?
Yes, so High-Level Monitoring Committee is the committee which is centrally put in there for monitoring of Panchgani and Mahabaleshwar ecological sensitive zone. So I have been a member in the past and now Dr. Ankur Patwardhan, who's himself an ecologist, is a chairman. It is a great advantage because as an ecologist, he had already known a lot about the issues in Panchgani. He was very, very supportive in all things. So it was a a very well coordinated effort on behalf of many people. As an ecologist, as well as person in charge of many of the administrative decisions in that place, he could tell people there to make certain things available, or put down timelines, and ask for reports of what has been done by the administrators. And that was a great advantage, because to have support of the central committee was very important in all this. And I think scientists as well as administrative knowledge are both required in this. Hema, I think you should also tell about all the administrators, amazing women.
Yeah, I think this whole what is very interesting about our Panchgani battle is it's been an all women front. So it started with Aparna heading the scientific part. And since 2012, we had only women CEOs. We had Mrs. Asha Raut, who was the CEO, followed by Mrs. Vidya Pol. And now, who's the current CEO, is Mrs. Amita Dagre. And I really, really appreciate the strength that they had, because they had to like kind of, go on the ground to implement the court order, and the amount of, bashing they received there verbally. It was not easy for them to stay put and take such a strong decision. So it has been, and of course we have had a very wonderful president in Mrs. Lakshmi Karatkar, president of Panchgani Municipal Council. I think even she had maintained a very good balance between the administration and the political scenario. So it has been an all-women battle in kind of defending. But they say, in every story they say that, oh, behind every successful man there is a woman. But behind all our success, I think we should also get in the story of Ravi Kadam, who's been our strength at the back. He's the architect who has been appointed by the PMC to design the Panchgani tableland, because the 20 acre has to be designed where you have the parking, where you're going to have the stalls and the horse tracks, how are they going to come in, get out and all that. And Aparna, I think you should share your story meeting Ravi Kadam and how he kind of changed his entire view on tableland.
So right from almost 2011-12, I was meeting all these personalities who were changing my life in some manner or other. So first it was Hema, who said, all the things that you talk have to be talked in a different manner. So that was one learning. Then the next person I met was Mr. Ravi Kadam. And he was quite, convinced about the need to beautify tableland at that point of time. And he's an amazing designer and architect and landscape designer. And he was talking about how he can build a glass bridge and how to beautify the two ponds, how boating can be started. And I was really, really surprised, because from my mind, even the dust storms were looking beautiful because it is nature. So then we got on talking, and I remember Hema and himself and me and all the councillors, everybody, we used to go for these walks and fight on the tableland, but go for walks on the tableland. And that sort of built up a relationship between everybody. And then we could put across that it is the nature that is already beautiful. Tourists are coming to see the beauty, not because it's a public park which has to be beautified. So then once he started realizing that, and it's a great advantage that he's a resident, he has been to that place right from childhood and has personal relationship with that place. So he realized that all he had to do was to showcase the beauty that already existed. And that kind of completely changed the way he looked at that place and the way he finally put up his designs. And I think he's now extremely committed towards the ecological and heritage preservation. So I'm just waiting to see what his plans are in future.
Yeah, and so having won this battle, there's a few takeaways from it. Is one is that, Aparna, like I've always been telling you, is that you all do so much of research, you all have so much of papers, you all have, but I don't see any of you scientists, really coming, doing conservation work. Where is that disconnect? I mean, you all write so many papers, and when I wanted to kind of understand how am I going to save the ecology of Panchgani, I was completely lost. It was just that because I found that one paper of yours in our petition, that, I could approach you. But don't you think that there is some kind of a disconnect that's happening between your knowledge resource and what is being in the public domain?
See, I'll accept very, very frankly here that as ecologists or as taxonomists, we spend far too much time looking into the past. So I know everything about every single word that has been written on Panchgani tableland. That's part of my studies. But we do lack to some extent vision of what we want in future. How do we go about in future? And do you remember that there was a public meeting in which we were speaking about rocky plateaus and experiences? And I presented I was just talking about the whole situation of how dire the situation is on various tablelands, not only Panchgani. And I, like a stupid person, I said, oh, Panchgani is a dead plateau. And there was Mona Patrao there, who has been a resident of Panchgani, very committed in conservation. And she stood up and she said, how can you call a place dead? She was very emotionally moved, and she said, you can't say that, you can't call something dead. And coming to think of it now, I realize that we should actually think like doctors, medical doctors. So they will do their best to revive the patients, not declare it dead. Their hurry is to look at how they can revive from whatever life that exists there. And I think everywhere we see, life does exist in nature. And just because a place is degraded, just because a place seems to be much poorer than it was in the past, because we are always comparing to glorious past, but what we see today can be changed. And I think we should have that motivation as scientists to put our science to work for better future, rather than pronouncing something as dead and moving on to that. I think that is a big learning from this story, at least personally for me.
And of course, I think even tourists have to be a little more sensitive, and it would start with actually packaging what that area is all about. I find that disconnect even with Mahabaleshwar Panchgani, where it is really not packaged to be an eco-sensitive zone. Even now, it's like it's more of a wedding destination, or it is for horse carts and horse rides and boating at Venna. But we're just kind of missing. I think so. There is a disconnect even where this is not happening, where the area is not being showcased for its beauty. But I think even like how we all promoted cars, maybe it's high time that there has to be some promotion of its ecology, even as far as Mahabaleshwar and Panchgani eco-sensitive zone is concerned. I think there is a little bit of disconnect, and maybe we could just work in the future to showcase Mahabaleshwar Panchgani as an eco-sensitive zone for what it has been declared, origin of 5 rivers, having 14 conservation zones, that is plateaus. So with that, I think we have had a lovely journey together, and nothing is a happy ending. It's always, it has to keep moving on. And the passion, I think what is really needed in conservation or activism is that you really have to have your passion burning. And as they say that, if you have your passion burning, even the universe will conspire to have it done for you. So with that, I sign off.